name is Kim Hobbs. This is September the 4th in 2010. We are at Albuquerque, New Mexico. I will be interviewing these two veterans. If you will introduce yourself.
I'm Colonel Carl Yerian, U.S. Air Force Reserve, retired.
And you, sir?
I'm James R. Moody. I'm a staff sergeant, was on Carl's crew. He was our co-pilot, and I was a ball turret gunner in that, in the 15th Air Force.
When did you first make your acquaintance? When was the crew put together?
In November 1943, I graduated from pilot training, advanced twin-engine pilot training on November 3rd, 43, Class 43J at Blytheville, Arkansas. And immediately was given a train ticket to Salt Lake City, was where we put the crew together.
And you graduated from gunnery school? What time, sir?
I did go to gunnery school, but I enlisted in the Air Force to train as a pilot, and after going through San Antonio, we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, went through Spartan school over there to become a pilot, took the basic. Our instructor had 5 students, and at that time he said, "We've got enough pilots and I can only graduate one of you." One of our students was from Texas, and the boy already had his pilot's license. So that made him head and shoulders ahead of the other 4 of us. And I didn't get to go ahead and complete my pilot's training, but they did reassign me to gunnery school in Las Vegas, Nevada. Went through that school, and upon completion of that, they sent me to Salt Lake City, where I was put together with the best crew I ever heard in my life. We were real cohesive crew.
How many missions did you fly together?
We were trying to sort that out. I think most all of his 50 missions, I went over as co-pilot because I just graduated from flight school, and our pilot had completed B-24 training at Liberal, Kansas, and John F. Shepard was made the first pilot, and I was co-pilot as we put that crew together. And we stayed together as a crew through most all our missions until I finally was made an aircraft commander and finished my missions with my own crew. So.
Did you volunteer and fly with other crews on other missions?
No, I was told I was made aircraft commander, and they picked up whoever they could find to make crews together. That was toward the end of the 44, in the middle, well, in August 44.
Were there a lot of need for ball turret gunners, or did you farm out to other crews, or did you pretty much stay with them?
I went full-time in that crew as ball turret gunner, and yes, they needed a ball turret gunner. They needed a tail gunner because there was a little action come on a lot of them flights.
What was the most interesting flight that the two of you recall?
Well, there were several, because early 44, the Luftwaffe was still at full force. The aircraft gunners had all completed their on-the-job training, and they were highly motivated, and they were very good. So we had action almost every mission, almost all of them, a lot of flak and fighters. We had the Tuskegee Airmen flew fighter escort for us. They had B-47s in the early days, and they didn't have enough range to go with us all the way to target. Well, they'd go as far as they could, and then they'd come back and meet us, but we'd go over the target by ourselves. So we depended on these gunners a lot of times to save us.
How many aircraft do you think that you were credited for having shot down?
I'm not sure. I think at one time I saw a record where we had six kills, but I'm not sure what that record was. But the Germans had a sneaky way of bringing Me-250s up behind us, twin engines, and about 1,500 yards out there, but they had rockets on those babies, and that's why they were trying to get a little closer. So the tail gunner and the ball turret gunner put a little lead out there, and we'd get an engine once in a while and get them suckers off our tail.
Sometimes it was just as well just to scare them.
I remember one mission, we were leading the 47th Wing. There was 4 groups, and we lost the number 3 engine on the way out, about 4 hours out, and we couldn't feather it. We started dropping back. We dropped back with the 2nd group and the 3rd, and we dropped our bombs with the 4th group. And after we dropped the bombs, everybody took off, and we were sitting over the target by ourselves with one engine windmilling. And we had ME-109s all over us. And I remember I was in the left seat. Shepard and I alternated. We took turns flying in the left seat. I was in the left seat, and I looked out the window, and I was looking down the gun barrels at ME-109, watching the tracers coming out the gun barrel, and all of a sudden he took off and went down, and a P-38 flew over, and I said, "That's the most beautiful airplane I ever saw."
Did the officers run with the officers and the enlisted with the enlisted, or did your crew pretty much?
Well, we lived in a tent together. The 4 officers lived in one tent, and I don't know, you guys, did you all live in one tent, or?
We had we had a tent and a half. We had four of the crew members was in one tent, and 2 of us with another tent with another crew. They were British tents that they brought up from Egypt, and they were kind of a 2-layer deal, which gave you insulation from the sun. And we found a whole bunch of old bomb crate woods and made our flooring and the siding, and we even had a barrel there for heat, and we had electric lights there for a while. They had a Dodge engine hooked to a odd kilowatt generator. And we had a light in the tent every night for a while till some sucker at the other end of the line decided to plug in a iron to iron up some stuff, and it blew up the engine and the generator.
Well, I mentioned about that heat. I guess you probably have heard that many times, but that was
This was at which base?
was a 55-gallon drum of 100-octane fuel with a little shuttle drip valve you could adjust the flow, and a bucket of sand inside the tent with a flame on it. So that was the heat. So every once in a while somebody'd forget to turn it off when they went to breakfast, and you'd see a big bright flame of the tent going up.
Where was your base located?
San Pancrazio, Italy.
That was right in the heel of Italy, is where the base was located. There was another sister base about 10 miles to the west of us. And
another mission that was of interest, we had the wing commander flying with us as an observer, and we got a direct hit of flak up through the bomb bay and into the fuel transfer system under the wing. And the bomb bay filled up with gas, and we opened the bomb bay doors to let the gas out. And it came up on the deck, the ring around the top turret was full of gas. So our engineer, with the bomb bay doors were open, climbed up over the bulkhead to get up under the wing to fix this thing, and the wing commander handed him a walk-around oxygen bottle because there was no oxygen up there. He couldn't wear a parachute. 60 below zero, with his bare hands in there working in the gas. He got it stopped, so we got home. So the flight engineer and the wing commander both got the Silver Star for that one.
Did we have a ball turret gunner with us tonight? Did you have any other crew members that you consider?
I haven't all these years I was never able to contact. Our bombardier lived in Dayton. I tried to he died with a brain tumor. Our pilot was killed over there. The first time was in Wichita. I finally got a note from Jim that he had been to the reunion in Wichita, and we missed each other at that one. I hadn't seen him till we made arrangements at Tulsa to get together. So that's the first time we figured in the 1st of July of '44 since we'd seen each other.
Well, how'd you keep the roof on?
Well, you know, air crews are like family. I mean, you're flying all these, especially in combat, you depend on every one of you doing their job to save the rest of you. So it's really great to be able to get back with him and have some time with him. So.
Did either of you stay in touch with any of the other crewmen after the war?
I tried to contact him, but I didn't have any information. I was never able to find any of the others. So he met one of them.
One of the crew members was, I think he was our nose gunner. He'd worked for United States Steel, and when they went out of business, they gave him a bailout. So he wanted to make a trip all the way around the United States, and he went to Washington and California and came back to New Orleans. And at that time, I was working for the Boeing company in New Orleans. I was down there for 5 years with him, and he stopped to see us there on his way back to, I think he was back in Pittsburgh or somewhere around in there. And that's about the only other crew member I got to see in all that time.
Do you remember his name?
Yes, it was Walt
Hepler.
Hepler was his name, yes.
Who was your running buddies when you were together as a crew in combat? Did you have one or two crew members was your closest friend?
Well, my tail gunner was my closest friend, and I backed him up every time I had to. And when I was on the ground and on leave and things, I run around with the radio man, but depending on that tail gunner. Little sucker was going to pharmacy school before he got in service, and we got a waist gunner shot up on one of our missions, and Red was going up there to help out this. He got shot in the ankle, and Red said, "Moody, you better take care of my tail gun back here and watch them fighters. I gotta go up and put some sulfur powder on this guy so he won't die."
What was your waist gunners? Do you remember the names of the tail
Well,
gunners?
yeah, we had our waist gunner was named Gerald Graff from I was going to say the name of that town up in Wisconsin, just as German as could be, and he was older than we were, but he was a dandy. He couldn't keep warm in those electric suits, so he found a limey suit that had fur like he was up in Alaska, and he stayed warm on all the rest of the missions in that waist gun position because it was cool back there. I had a heated electric suit, heated boots, and I was real cozy down that ball turret, but it was cool out in that waist section.
It was 60 below zero over the Alps, and the heating system in the B-24 leaves a lot to be desired. It just doesn't do much.
Did you ever hand frostbite your fingers or your feet?
My hands used to, when it start letting down, holding up the control column, it almost make you sick when you start thawing out because they were really cold. But never had frostbite.
This waist gunner of ours that worked at Bombay, where we had all the gasoline flowing out and hydraulic fluid, and he had a pair of pliers up there twisting tubing and putting a muffler up into some of the gas lines. He got frostbite clear down to his navel, and suffered pretty good with that frostbite because it was so cold.
Did you have any of the officers that you spent more time with than the
We
other?
were all pretty close. The four of us were together practically all the time. We were flying, well, we flew 50 missions from April to July. So a lot of times we were flying maybe 5 or 6, 7 days in a row sometimes. Get up 4 o'clock in the morning and take off at daylight and 8, 9 hours. So we didn't have a lot of time to socialize because you got home for debriefing, you go into bed, and 4 o'clock in the morning you're up again. So.
Did they still give you a jigger of whiskey?
Oh yeah, that's about the only good thing. We did get a break, R&R in Isle of Capri for a couple of weeks, 10
Yeah.
days or so.
Yeah. My radio man and I, when we were in Naples over to Isle of Capri, we got nailed by some MPs because we didn't have our flight zipper all the way up and our tires were loose. But the story of that was that there was 25,000 engineering officers waiting to go on up Italy, and there was a General Wilson in charge of those, and he just made MPs out of them when they nailed us. And we got written up for 10-day suspension at our air base, but that didn't make any difference. We went back to flying every day, so that didn't hurt a bit.
That was something new, the regulations and the tie and whatever. You didn't do a lot of saluting.
Well, that wasn't much of a problem at San Pancrazio, but he got tied up with people in Naples. We were pretty informal as far as base at San Pancrazio.
When did you first go into the service?
5th of August, 1942. I went down and registered for the draft and went across the street and enlisted as an aviation cadet. 5th of August. But they didn't call me up till February 44. Went to Nashville to classification center and then the Maxwell Field for pre-flight.
What was your driving force? What was your impetus to enlist?
Well, I was happy to be a pilot. I thought that was right. A lot of people turned out as bombardiers and navigators, but I was assigned as a pilot, and that was my ambition. That's what I wanted, so that turned out okay.
How about you, Jim? When did you first go in?
I enlisted in the Air Force in late in 42, and then they closed enlistments, so I got drafted in February of 43, and they sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was going to drive a tank, and I think it was in April they reopened enlistments for the Air Force, and I transferred back to the Air Corps. I transferred back to the Air Corps, and that's where I started my Air Force service.
How many years have you been coming to these reunions?
First one I attended was in 1988 in Colorado Springs. But in the meantime, they'd had them all over my hometown in Columbus and in Dayton and Cincinnati, and I didn't even know about it until '88. And I've been trying to hit them all since. I missed a couple, but we've been to almost all of them since 1988.
How about you, Jim? When did you find out?
The first one I went to was in Oak City. When I was raising a family, a lot of times they were either East Coast or West Coast, and raising a family during summertime was kind of a problem, taking them all on vacation. So Oak City was the first one I went to, and then I missed one, and then I went to Tulsa, and this one, and so this was the third full convention I've gone to, and I'm amazed at the number of veterans we still got coming to these conventions. And of course now we've got second generation picking us up, and we're making them do the dirty work.
Well, if I find a third generation with with his hat turned around backwards and the crotch of his shorts hanging down around his ankles. Have either of you got any advice? If I sat him down here in this chair, what would you tell him about your experience and what you've done? To maybe let him know what this group and these reunions mean to you.
Well, probably the first thing you need to sit down and talk to that youngster about is the truth in history, what really happened, not what he's getting in out of the textbooks nowadays, because they kind of construe the history kind of in their own socialist way nowadays. But tell him the truth, tell him how it really was, and they'll come around. They'll grow up. They'll be okay.
I'd like to add a comment on that subject of the second generation, because it's really a pleasure. It makes me proud to see the way the second generation has taken over and kept this outfit going, and to see their sons and grandsons and daughters, and they all seem to be very much interested in the history, and they're supporting their parents and grandparents, and it's really, really great.
Well, if I could add a comment, when that movie Saving Private Ryan came out, I couldn't go see it at the movie theater, but when it came out in video, my wife brought it home and she played it, and I watched it without a word. And when it was over, I shut off the VCR and the TV and went and laid down in the bedroom, and she turned on the lamp and sat down beside me and asked me, well, what do you think? I said, if you came to one reunion with me and my father and saw those men and the look on their faces and the camaraderie that they shared, you'd already know what I was thinking. And I turned off the light.
I don't know if the next generation can have that feeling, because these people have been here and seen the veterans and they're with them. The farther you get away, it might be more difficult, but it's been great.
Well, we thank you too for your service. Like I said, I don't know how they kept the roof on.
Well, it's been great.
Well, we thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.